35,000 of them. You and I make 35,000 of them each and every single day. Do you know what I'm talking about yet? Yeah, decisions. And every single time we make one of those 35,000 decisions each and every single day, it saps a little bit of our time and a lot of it of our energy. Yeah, a lot of it. It's a word. Anyway, a little bit of our time and a lot of bit of our energy is exactly what we need to be able to grow and scale our businesses. And if we don't have those, and we don't have systems and processes in place inside our business, the chances are that you will run out of steam, and unfortunately, inevitably, your business is going to fail. And we don't want that for you. So this video is all about the importance of having systems and processes in place inside your business, why it's important, how you can go about implementing it, and why it's even more important having these things, systems and processes, inside your business more so than having goals. All that and a whole bunch more. So if you like the sound of that, please consider subscribing, hitting that like button and that notification bell. Without further ado, let's get on with this video. Hit it. So now that you've heard that we make on average 35,000 decisions every single day, and if we've got more people in the business, multiply that by the number of people you've got, do you really want to leave your hands running at the mercy of the unpredictable chaos that is the human mind? I didn't think so. And that's what we want to do by implementing systems and processes in place, because hey, sometimes these 35,000 decisions, a small amount of them will be absolute genius. But the majority of the other ones are things that can potentially go horribly wrong. And that's what happens inside your business. Things will go wrong and then things will go right. And what you want to do is when things go right, make that into a process and a system. And the things that go wrong, find ways to improve it until they go right, and then make that into a process or a system. We're going to talk a little bit more about how we go about doing that. But before we do that, let's break down what a system and a process actually is. Now, let's imagine you just won an all expenses paid trip for 14 days on a cruise, and you go away, you leave your business alone, you don't touch it, and you come back 2 weeks later. What would have happened to your business? Now, if you say to me that I can't leave my business without it having some form of negative impact on the business itself, or something will stop or stall or slow down, then you don't have the right systems and processes in place inside your business so that it could run without you. And this is key here. And I know that you might say to me, but I want to be involved in my business and I want to do this. Yes, you're going to be able to be involved as a person who runs and grows and operates the business from a strategic perspective so that you can actually scale your business, so that you could have that time freedom and that financial freedom that you want. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck inside your business in a hamster wheel, running around like crazy, getting overwhelmed, burning out, and pretty soon you will burn out and run out of steam and your business will not grow. So if you want to be a freelancer, that's another thing. Then that means you're working by the project or the contract and you need to be there, and when you're not there, then you're not getting paid. However, if you're going to run a business and you're going to grow and scale a business so that you can then achieve the dreams and the lifestyle that you're actually going for, then calling it a business means that you're going to start scaling it and growing it and running it and leaving it to operate in a manner that is systematic and consistent and repeatable every single time. Let's take, for example, McDonald's or Starbucks. Now, Howard Schultz doesn't need to be in every single cafe or restaurant. Neither does McDonald's. I mean, Ray Kroc's not even alive anymore yet. Every single branch, there are 38,625 at last count McDonald's restaurants around the world with over 230,000 employees. Now imagine 230,000 employees making 35,000 decisions a day. How is it possible that every single branch that you walk into around the world, no matter where it is exactly the same, the food is exactly the same, the restaurants and the quality is exactly the same? And the only way that that is actually possible or achievable is by making sure that you have the right systems and processes in place and ensuring that these systems and processes are measured and quantified and qualified. Really, it's as simple as that. So I get asked this question a lot. Hey Tamer, what's the difference between a system and a process, and which one should I have in my business? And I say system stands for save yourself stress, time, energy, and money, and you need to have both. And let me tell you what each one of them actually does inside your business. Then they say, well, hey, which one do I need to start with first? And I say, well, let me break each one down and it will all become apparent. Let's start with a process. A process is a set of steps that you need to have inside your business for anything that you're going to repeat more than once. If you're going to repeat it more than once, have a process for it. What you are aiming to do inside your business is not solving a problem once, but solving every single problem you come across forever. And by installing systems and processes inside your business, that's essentially what you want to do. So, process, set of steps that you need to have every time you're going to do something more than once. For example, if you're going to have meetings with potential clients, how to go about booking these meetings is going to be a process. So you would say, we will send out an email, and that email has a calendar link. They will go on the calendar link, they will book. Once they book, we will send them an email confirmation. That confirmation then has a calendar invite so that they can put it on their calendar. We will also send them an email out a few hours before the meeting so that they don't forget, and it improves the chances of them being able to attend the meeting, so on and so forth. That's a process. And what you're trying to do out of this process is you're trying to improve the effectiveness of your business. Effectiveness. And we're going to get to the difference between process and system in a minute. So with a process, you're trying to improve effectiveness through making sure that you've got a sequence and a set of steps, and if those steps are not being effective and you're not getting anywhere, improve that process until you have an effective process in place. Now let's have a look at what a system actually is. So apart from system basically saying save yourself stress, time, energy, and money, what a system is basically a set of processes, people, technologies, interfaces. When you put them all together, that becomes a system within your business. So for example, you will have an online booking system for your meetings for your business. So we've had the process in place, which is the sequence of events of when things happen and how they happen. Now, what a system does is it says, right, what technologies do we need to have? What people need to be involved and who needs to be accountable? What are the interfaces of how this will interact with, for example, our sales funnel or our marketing funnel? And that in it of itself becomes a system that then becomes as a whole something that has a set of processes, a set of people, a set of technologies, a set of interfaces, and how they interface with other systems within your business. That's essentially what a system comes down to. So when I get asked the question, which one do I need to have in the business? The answer is both. Which one do you need to develop first? The answer is it depends on the business and how you're thinking, whether you're thinking strategically top down or whether you're basically going inside your business as a single solopreneur and basically saying, here are a set of steps that I'm going to do. When I find something that works, I'm going to systematize it. I'm going to make it into a process, and I'm going to understand how things interface with each other. The way that I prefer to do it is I prefer to work both ways. So when I come to develop the systems, I develop it top down, having a look at the strategy. If you have a look at this video, this is how we look at the strategy before we even set any goals inside the business. We have a look at the strategy, we have a look at basically the challenge, what we're going to do, how we're going to put a framework to achieve these, as well as a set of goals and the systems that we need to have that go to making sure that we achieve that strategy. Now, remember when I said processes are there to improve effectiveness? Systems are there to improve efficiency. And that's a big difference between systems and process. If you are not doing something fast enough, or it's getting delayed, or there are lags somewhere, you need to look at the system and the interfaces between all of the processes and how they're interacting with each other. Even within the same process, you might be trying to improve how one sequence of events interfaces with the next step, for example, within your process. However, from a process perspective, it's about the effectiveness. So if you're doing something and you keep on doing it and you're doing it fast and you're doing it super fast and it's super efficient, however, you're not getting anywhere, then that is the effectiveness that's being impacted. And that's where you go back and you say, right, what steps am I doing here and what am I doing that can be improved? Can I swap out this step for another step? For example, if I, instead of sending a calendar invite, if I send straight away a Slack message to that potential person, so then I potentially improve the chances of them being on the actual meeting. These are things that you talk about when you're looking at the effectiveness and the processes and the steps that you're taking within the process. Systems then look at the overarching system as a whole in terms of the process, in terms of the people that are involved, in terms of the technologies, and so on and so forth, and how they interface with other systems and other processes. That, in a nutshell, is the difference between a system and a process. So how do you go about implementing it inside your business? So when you're implementing processes inside your business, it's quite straightforward. Anything that you're going to do more than once, make it into a process. And when you actually run through it one of the first few times, log down exactly the steps that you're going to take. So for example, say, right, I send an email out to a potential client, log it down. And then you say, right, that includes a calendar link. Once they actually book the link, then the next step is I forward the confirmation email to my VA, who then sends them a calendar invite so that they can, so on and so forth. You get the idea. And that could be for any process, any set of steps that you do more than once inside your business. And once you know that this process is actually effective in getting the job done, stick to it. If it's not, then improve it and optimize it and say, well, actually, instead of sending them an email, maybe we can send them an SMS or a Slack message, so on and so forth. So then that can improve the chances of them actually turning up on the actual meeting. Whatever it is, you write them down and then you turn them into a process. It's really that straightforward and that simple. And these are the processes that you will actually then be potentially giving to your future employees. Because one of the reasons why a lot of businesses fail when they start wanting to expand and hiring out people, and they sit there and they complain, and they go, Tama, I hire these people and they're so good on paper. However, when they come in, they do not do what I want them to do, and they do it in a bad way. And then I ask them, have you got the processes in place, and have you actually provided them with an SOP, standard operating procedure, which stands for a list of processes and a list of steps that they need to actually take to enable them to achieve and complete their role? And they will say no. Well, I say, well, then they're trying to make 35,000 decisions a day based on what they know and what their experiences are in previous businesses or previous work. And you have sat there for years, potentially, building your business, making 35,000 decisions every single day for potentially a year or two before you've hired them. And then you expect them to come in and make a decision which is similar to all of these decisions that you've made over the years. It's impossible. It's really not possible. And that's why having a set of processes that you then turn into a standard operating procedure or a SOP, once you've got it right, that's what you give to your potential future employees and say, this is what I want you to do. Then what you want to do is you want to find a way to measure it, and being able to say, right, how do I measure that this particular step has been done correctly? Or how do I measure that this particular process has been completed according to the criteria and the quality and the consistency that I want? Quantify it and actually write it down and say, this is how I'm going to measure it. And that can potentially be then a key performance indicator or a KPI that you put and you give to your future employee, and you say, this is the process, this is how the outcomes that I expect from it, this is how it's going to be measured, and this is what I expect from that entire process. And then it becomes crystal clear for them. And that's exactly how the franchise-based businesses like McDonald's and other businesses, that's how they operate. They have these standard operating procedures with a whole bunch of processes and systems in place, and how they measure them with the outcomes and the KPIs, and they say, this is how we measure quality. Right, now let's have a look at how we go about implementing systems inside your business. So when you're looking at systems again is about the efficiency and the execution of the processes and how they interface amongst each other. So how do you go about actually implementing a system? The way that I look at it is I start saying, right, what are the objectives of the business that I want to actually achieve? What are the processes that need to actually operate? And what is the strategy of where my business is going? And how do I make sure that all of these work in harmony together so that they can actually work efficiently and as fast as possible? So I will have a look at my processes and I'll say, well, do I actually need to be in this process? It involves me actually reviewing this 3 times, where actually I don't even need to review it once. And I can have somebody else review it, and that becomes a much more efficient process, as long as I make sure that the KPIs and the quality and the consistency is there, so that that can be ensured every single time. If it needs my input, then fine. But if it doesn't, then I can then delegate it and push it off to somebody else. Other things can be in place as well, where you start looking at your marketing system, where you start looking at your online booking system, where you start looking at your sales system and your operation system, and you start looking at the functions of your business and how they're going to all work through the processes that you're doing, and how they're all going to bounce these steps back and forth between each other, because you don't want one function of your business to work in isolation, in silos. You want them all to work in harmony, and how you operate the systems, the technologies, how the people are accountable, what steps they need to take, and what processes need to interact with each other, so that you can actually achieve what you want to achieve as fast as possible and as effectively as possible by the right processes. That's where your system then starts working in harmony and does what it needs to do. So start by developing your processes in place, but also look at the strategy and the objectives of your business, and how these processes will need to feed off of each other within the functions of your organization, so that they can work as efficiently as possible. Now, I recently read a book by Scott Adams, the person who created the Dilbert comics. Now, he's not just a person who creates comics, he's actually a serial entrepreneur, a successful one, an investor, and has worked with many, many entrepreneurs. Now, his quote was, "Goals are for losers, systems are for winners." It's a really interesting one, isn't it? Goals are for losers, systems are for winners. And he observed time and time again that people that had just implemented goals in their lives or in their businesses may or may not actually achieve them, and even if they did, it wasn't consistent, and they'd usually go back to not being successful. However, the ones that implemented systems consistently in their lives or in their businesses were the ones that consistently succeeded and just maintained that success. And he gave an example. He said someone, for example, if they want to put a goal of losing 20 pounds, that's a goal, and they may or may not achieve it. And if they do, they may end up putting that weight back on. However, if they put a system in place where they are going to live a healthy lifestyle, that system is much more likely to keep on consistently achieving the goal target that they had of losing that weight and maintaining that weight loss. So goals are for losers, systems are for winners. Interesting, huh? Now that's why I keep on saying systems and processes in your business are a lot more important than just having goals, because the chances are if you just put goals in place, that's just wishful thinking. However, if you put the right systems and processes in place that are effective and are efficient and will get you to your destination that you have strategically put down, the chances of you getting to your goals and keeping them consistently achieved is much higher. Keep that in mind. So are you interested in me covering my systems and my processes for how I go about filming these YouTube videos and how they get edited and repurposed for social media as well as my blog? If you are, please hit that like button. Also hit that subscribe button, and write down in the comments below, OMG, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, workflow video on YouTube now, stat, please. Okay? Do that enough times and I might release it very shortly. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. This means stop recording. It's in your SOP. Stop recording. I'm done. I mean, it's part of the process. Stop